What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and we've got another cyber format video, but this video is going to be a bit spicier than the others because I got to cooking in this format. I think I cooked up something pretty nasty but pretty fun. Now, if you don't know, Cyber format is the format based around SJC Boston. In September 2005, it uses the GOAT format limited list, and it also uses a card pool going up to Cybernetic Revolution, which includes things like Cyber Dragon, dissociated Cyber Dragon fusions, and Xarian Universe. Now, the format is pretty dominated by Steino DK decks. Decks that aim to use Cyberstein to bring out a Cyber Twin Dragon or Cyber End Dragon and end the game on the spot with limiter removals, or maybe they brought out Stein off of Last Will, strip summon a Monarch, and then they've got to attack lethal through that. Now, those decks are very, very powerful, but they are a little bit weak to hand disruption, like Trap Death Shoot, and there are 3 Trap Death Shoots in the format. And I got to thinking, 3 Trap Death Shoot is already pretty strong against those sorts of decks. What if we had 6 Trap Death Shoot? And that brought me to the card Spiritual Water Art Aoi. Now, this wasn't initially my conception for building this deck. I initially just wanted to build a water deck like the likes of Mildly Upset Gerbil and M. Shobes have been playing a lot on the YGO from Zero Discord server. Definitely head on over to there if you want to play games in Cyber format or any of the other formats that I featured on the channel. We will be having a big tournament in this format very, very soon on the Discord. It's happening this weekend. So definitely head on over there if you want to participate in that. And we'll also be having a locals in this format as well. But they've been playing water decks to varying degrees of success, and, no matter how successful the decks are, they've all been really cool. Mildly Subjurtle brought Death's Frog, and M. Shobes has been experimenting with things like Mad Lobster Control, where they get it to hand with Emissary of the Afterlife, and also, more recently, a Legendary Ocean sort of beatdown, where they play, like, big level 5 monsters, like Giga Gigo, and also Terra King Salmon, in addition to things like Mermaid Knight, to just beat down the opponent quickly before they can actually set up their Stein combos. So I like both those strategies as well. And, I did take a lot of inspiration from M. Shobes' more like beatdown oriented style deck for the water list. Because, I am playing the normal monsters that they were playing in their Mad Lobster build. They were using things like Factory of Mass Production to get them back. I'm choosing not to go that route because I'm sort of going all in on the aggro strat. The idea behind this is like, if we can disrupt our opponent's plays early enough to prevent them from getting up like a Stein OTK or something, we can easily just beat in enough with Giga or Giant Red Sea Snake to wipe out their life points down to below 5,000. And then they can't activate their Stein OTKs, and then we can just beat down them the rest of the way here. Now, part of the reason why I like Spiritual Water Out Aoi, as opposed to something like Death Shoot. Death Shoot's still very good as well. We are playing 3 of it because we do want to have this in the deck to maximize our chances of opening hand rips. But one of the great things about Aoi, in addition to just its hand ripping capacity, is that oftentimes it is a 2-for-2 trade. Oftentimes you save the Aoi for when they have like a True Nade that they're activating. They activate True Nade, expecting to pull off their big Stein OTK. You chain Aoi and you tribute your monster, but you also rip a card out of their hand that could potentially be the key to pulling off their combo. And also they're wasting their True Nade in the process. And this doesn't just have to apply to, True Nades or things like that. It can also apply to you attack in. They chain Mirror Force, or not chain Mirror Force, but they activate Mirror Force, and then you activate Aoi to tribute away your water monster, rip a card out of hand as well. So I think it's a really good card in this deck, and also in this format where a lot of combo decks really do need all their pieces to go right in hand to actually function. So I think this deck is really, really sick. Let's just go through the card by card here real quick. We've got Double Abyss Soldier. This card is crazy in this deck, can set up some really good OTKs potentially, or not OTKs, but very aggressive turns. We've got a Breaker as well to pop our opponent's back row. We've got Triple Sidra. This is just to keep the aggression going. It's not a water monster, just like Breaker isn't a water monster either. But one of the sort of issues that I was having in sort of crafting this deck was I was like, well, I'm going for the water beatdown strat, but these monsters don't actually deal with Cyber Dragon. Well, what does deal with Cyber Dragon? Another Cyber Dragon. So I figured that playing Cyber Dragon in the deck could be good. This is potentially a card that you could cut, though, in the future. We've got Triple Mother Grizzly here to tutor out into things like Sinister Serpent or Yomi Ship, and that can be very, very strong. We've got a Tri-Infected Virus to clear away our opponent's stuff. And we've got Triple Giga Gigo and Triple Giant Red Sea Snake. These are just mainly here for being big water monsters. I was considering Granadora because Granadora is a 1900 water monster, but it does cost you 1,000 life points total most of the time. If you've got Granadora on your field, you can also manipulate it with like Abyss Soldier. You can summon out Granadora, gain 1,000, bounce the Granadora back to your hand so you don't take the 2,000 damage. But I feel like most of the time, just like Granadora would be costing you more life points than you'd like to give up. And given a lot of the decks in this format can get very aggressive, I feel like every bit of life points matters. So I figured there wasn't too much difference between the 1900 attack and something like 1850 attack anyways. So realistically, I don't think it will come up that often. but you could potentially play Granadora if you really do want to. But these are mainly here just so you have a ton of normal summonable or settable water monsters to start off with your owies. Because generally, the goal of this deck is to start with at least one hand rip live in every opening hand. And when you have 6 hand rips, then the odds of opening that are not too low. So you generally will be opening these things, and you do want ways to trigger them right away. We get triple Book of Moon because this deck does suffer a little bit against things like Royal Decree because you're playing a ton of traps here. But also, Book of Moon allows your big beaters to get over things like a Sidra. It allows them to get over things like Monarchs as well, so the Book of Moons are very good. We got a Brain Con to take control of our opponent's stuff. We could potentially tribute over it for a Cyber Dragon as well, but this also allows us to just get more aggressive. We got Duo, Charity, and Pot. The Trinity, of course, is illegal here, so we are playing it. We got an MST to clear away their back row. We got Double Knock to clear away their sets. We got a Premat to bring back one of our powerful beaters. We've got Snatch Steal to take control of our opponent's stuff. For the traps, we've got Call the Haunted to bring back our stuff, Mirror Force to wipe away our opponent's aggressive pressure, a Ring here to also destroy one of their cards in the field, get more aggressive, and we've got the triple Owie as well, along with the triple Dust Shoot to just have a ton of hand rips here. Lastly, we've got a TT to wipe away the board. For the side deck, it's a bit, negotiable at this point. I just sort of threw together a side deck based on what I felt would be the deck's bad matchups, but this could definitely use a lot more fine tuning. We got triple Mobius for back row focused decks like things like Burn, etc. We can't really play Royal Decree here, in my opinion, because we are playing so many powerful traps, but I guess we could, like, side out the hand of triple Decree and some other stuff as well, so maybe I should play Decree in the future. We get triple Massacre Restrict because I feel like this deck is a bit awkward into just a regular Monarch build, and regular Monarch builds are running around, people are playing with that, and also if you're playing Steinarch, one thing that you could do to decide against this deck is just go regular Monarch, and as I mentioned before, this deck can suffer against like big beaters like 2400 attackers, so having the Massive Restrict up can be good in that case. We got triple Solemn Judgment as well for a variety of matchups. Again, this is sort of one of the cards that I'm kind of iffy on the side deck, but it could potentially come up in a variety of cases. We got triple Threatening Roar here for the OTK strategies, the double Brain Con for going into the Mobius, and a Jinzo as well if we want to go into the Brain Con Mobius Jinzo strategy. For the Fusion deck, it's just a standard Fusion deck in this format. We're not playing things like Metamorphosis or Cyberstein, so realistically, we won't be going into this that often. Occasionally, you can take control of your opponent's Cybersteins and go into this, but realistically, that won't happen too often. But it's just the standard stuff. You can check out one of my other Cyber videos if you're interested in the exact layouts of this. Oh, I will mention, I guess, one thing that we are playing in this Fusion deck that a lot of other decks aren't is Humanoid Wormdrake, because it is a water Fusion monster, so that's kind of funny. But, realistically, the Fusion deck is unlimited at this point anyway, so you can just proxy in whatever Fusion monster you need if you don't have one in the extra deck proper. But that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. Let's dive into some games so I can show off how this deck actually works. Okay, we got our first game against Mystic Chef. I think this is their first time on the channel, so welcome to them. They've been active in the Discord lately, so it's a pleasure to have them on. Finally get into a game with them on the channel. So this is a really good opening, and it sort of shows, again, like, you open two hand rips. We don't open a water monster, unfortunately, here, but, like, you could conceptualize if we didn't draw the Duo, or if we didn't draw the Dust Shoot, then we could have potentially drawn one of the many water monsters in our deck. That's not necessarily the best way to conceptualize these sort of things, but as long as we open one hand rip, I'm happy. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a Duo. That'll give them just enough cards for us to go for Dust Shoot, unless they go for the draw phase priority MST to play around that. But they don't have, like, a Cyber Dragon that they can bring out here because we won't be committing a monster to board here. So I feel fine overall. We also have Mirror Force as well. So they'd need a very specific set of cards to actually win this turn if they are going to go for, like, draw phase priority on the MST. And I don't really think they can have it. So we're going to set 3. We're actually going to set 4 and pass back to our opponent. They've got, oh wait, they pitched heavy. Yeah, so you don't have to worry about heavy. That's why we did this. So they're going to set 1 immediately, which they can't quite do. I ask if they're using draw phase priority, but they are not. So we're going to get a peek at their hand with the Dust Shoot. See that they've got a TT, a Sidra, a Sook, and a Limiter. I think of these, I actually want to send back the Sook because, yes, they have Cyber Dragon with Limiter removal, and that's kind of awkward, but we can play around Cyber Dragon. We know it's coming, and they can't commit it to board here. They can't technically really commit the Sook either because they'll have to set it down. But I feel fine just setting back the Sook to prevent them from having a body on board, so that way we can get in for some damage. We have Mirror Force in the back row to stop them from attacking over whatever monster we bring out. So I feel ultimately fine about this. So we send back the Sook and leave them with the TT, Sidra, and Limiter. They're going to set 1, which is very likely the TT, and we draw Giant Red Sea Snake, so that's perfect. We bring that out. They go for the TT. We could chain Owie here to get that 2-for-2 trade, but we know the hand is Sidra Limiter, which isn't doing anything on this board, so I figure I can save the Owie for a bit better of a situation. So they're going to bring out a Fusilier here, 1400 attack. They're going to attack in, and we're just going to take it. You know, if they use limiter on that, it's not lethal, and it'll be destroyed at the end of the turn anyways. And we have many monsters in our deck, and there's one of them, Mother Grizzly. We're going to bring that out, summon that out, attack in to the Fusilier. Now, we could bring out like a Sinister Serpent, which pairs very well with Owie, but I figure that we can just bring out another Grizzly as well, because if they special summon out Sidra, we don't necessarily want to use like Mirror Force on that right away. We're not dead to a limiter removal on the Sidra. We are dead to 2 limiter removals on the Sidra, so maybe that's something I should have played around here. But I figured it was very unlikely if they drew the second limiter. And if they did, you know, kudos to them. Good job. But they did not, it looks like, so they're just going to set 1, pass back to us. And we draw Breaker, which is pretty good. Now we can get them below the 5k range, which is what I want to do. So we're going to summon out Breaker, go for BrainCon here, attack over their set, and then attack directly for 35. So this is a bit awkward. There is a situation in which we do lose the game from this. If they like draw into BrainCon, take control of Breaker, pop our Mirror Force exactly, then we're in a bad spot. But I mean, again, like if they do that, that's a very sort of unlikely scenario. They get to get the sort of 1/3 chance of hitting the Mirror Force. They've got to win that. So I don't really think it's that likely. But they bring out a Fusilier here, and they're going to try and attack in. We are going to go for Mirror Force here because we do know about the limiter in hand, and they're just going to admit defeat from that. So yeah, we didn't even get to use the Owie there, but we had it in the back row just in case we wanted it. And I think that shows how powerful it can be, just having that there as an option. For game 2, we actually just kept the deck exactly the same because I was like, I want to see what the deck is like going second, you know? This is not how you normally side. Normally you side out some of the Dust Shoots or the Owies because you are going second, so it's less impactful drawing them. But we don't draw them anyways, so it doesn't really matter for us here. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw a Sidra, so we're just going to go for that Sidra. And it looks like that's fine. We're going to bring out a Giant Red Sea Snake as well. Attacking the set with the Sidra in case it's like Gravekeeper's Spy. We still don't know exactly what they're on, so I figured this is fine. They've got Book on our Sidra anyways. And we're going to think we could potentially, you know, not attack into the set just in case it is a Spy. We don't want to take the 200, and then they get out 2 monsters from deck. We get the TT to back up our field here anyways, so I'd rather just hit into this in case it is a Spy, get more monster on field for them to lose to TT. But it should say Serpent, so I feel fine about that. We're going to set 1, pass back to them. Now, if it's a Sidra of their own in hand, then that's a bit awkward for us. And it's a knock on our Sidra. That's kind of rough. They bring out a Breaker here, and we just go for the TT because they're going to clear our Sea Snake if they want to anyways. So I figure we might as well just TT this board. So we're going to do that, and they just pass back to us, so it seems like they don't really have anything here. We bring out a Giga, get in for 1850, and we're just keeping the aggressive pressure on. That's what this deck is really good at doing, even if it doesn't draw into the hand rips. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw Call the Haunted here, and we're going to bring out that Giga, and we're going to set the call just in case Morphing Jar. I figured it probably isn't, but it doesn't really matter if we set it now or later. They're going to go for a Mirror Force on our Giga, so that's really awkward. We could have potentially gone for an Abyss Soldier here, bounce back the back row to get in, to guarantee that we drop them below 5,000. But I didn't really want to waste the resources like that. So our opponent's going to go for MST on the call, which is quite unfortunate. They flip up a Reaper here, attack in, and now they'll be able to rip a card out of our hand. And which one are they going to rip? They're going to rip the Cyber Dragon. That's kind of rough. Either way, we can get in for some more aggressive pressure. We draw Book, which can protect our monsters, so that's very nice. We're going to attack in to the Reaper there, drop them down below Stein range, which I'm very happy about. We set the Book, pass back to them. They go for a Moth. We're going to use Book on the Reaper. This doesn't actually destroy the Reaper, but the reason I want to do this is because if they want to attack him with the Reaper, they've got to flip it face up, so it will still be an attack. And if they don't want to attack with the Reaper, then they can't just switch it to face up defense. This turns our knocks online if we draw into knock. So I figure it's just better to do it now. We're losing the Book anyways, so it doesn't really matter that much. They go for it, tributing the Sidra over the Moth, attacking the Abyss Soldier. And we're in a really tough spot. We've got no cards here. We draw into Grizzly. We set the Grizzly. We could summon it just to play around a knock of their own. But I figure I'm probably dead here anyways, so I'm fine just setting it. They bring out a Chaos Sork, banishing a Light and Dark. That's kind of awkward for us. We bring out another Grizzly. They're going to attack into that as well. And we will take another 7. We bring out another Grizzly here to wall off the Spirit Reaper, and they just pass back to us. Also, this gets another Water Monster out of our deck. We want to kind of deck them to this point to make sure our draws are as live as possible. This is kind of awkward because the Chaos Sork kind of checks the Mother Grizzly here. So I kind of got to remove the Chaos Sork. And so I will do that. I'm going to attack in to the Cyber Dragon with the Grizzly, bring out a Yomi ship here, and just crash that Yomi ship into the Chaos Sork. They can just banish our stuff, switch the Sork to defense, and keep that on board after a potential Mirror Force here. So we're going to set the Mirror Force, pass back to them. They're just going to attack in. We are going to go for the Mirror here, popping their entire board. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Knock, which is pretty good. We're going to go for that Knock, banishing their set. And they're going to go for pre-mat here. Pre-mat will get back the Sork, which is really rough. Again, that deals with a lot of what we want to bring out here. They're going to attack in for 23. Pass back to us. We draw Brain Con. So we're just going to Brain Con the Sork, and then we're going to banish it with its own effect because otherwise we lose the game. The pre-mat should be engraved, but it doesn't really matter here at this point. We draw Tribe. We can't really afford to hold this. We just kind of got to go for it. If they've got Sidra in hand, that's awkward for us, but they've got Sidra anyway, so no matter what we commit, we'd be in a bad spot. We just got to get the aggressive pressure going, get a clock on them. They set another pass back to us. We draw a pre-mat here. We could potentially pre-mat back one of our monsters, attack in, but if they've got TT, we hard lose to that. So I don't necessarily want to do that. I just want to attack in here. 416. They're going to take it. We set the pre-mat as bluff if they've got MST. Well, they can't have MST, but if they got like Death Tornado or something, the pre-mat would die to that anyways. So I'm fine just setting it here as a bluff. They're going to set one. We draw Serpent. That's perfect. We can go for pre-mat, target the Abyss Soldier, and that will just be the end of the game. Yeah, because we can bounce back that set. All they've got is Dust Shoot and a meta. And yeah, they just had Jinzo and limit removal in hand. So we actually managed to pull this one out from the jaws of defeat. And it does show how this deck can just get aggressive. If it draws into its beaters, it can just keep beating in. And it was kind of weird because we didn't draw a hand rip this entire time. We have 6 hand rips in deck, but we didn't draw them. But game 1, we got to show the power of drawing them early. But this wasn't the only game I got against Mystic Chef. So let's dive into the next one now. Okay, we got another game against Mystic Chef here. We're going to dive in, and we start by tying in the RPS a fair amount of the time, so that's pretty good. And unfortunately, we do lose the RPS this time. This deck really does want to go first. That's kind of unfortunate. It can still play going second. The hand rips aren't terrible going second either, but if the opponent plays around Dust Shoot, that can be kind of awkward. Opponent's going to start by setting 2, passing back to us. We draw a TT here. We're just going to bring out the Grizzly, knock their set. It's a Serpent. I'm very glad to see that gone. Attack in for 14. They've got Book on our Grizzly. That's kind of rough. We just set the Mirror Force pass back to them. I figure part of the reason why they might be, not really committing much to the back row and why they might be going for a Book here on the Grizzly is because they've got like a heavy and they want us to set a bunch of back row to play into that heavy. So I'm just going to set the Mirror. And they're going to bring out a Fusilier. I just let this attack go through because we get another Grizzly here. We can crash into their Fusilier, and they're not setting any back row, so this tells me the coast is clear. We draw Graceful, but I don't fire it yet because I'd rather get a Serpent in rotation. I figure after my last Grizzly gets destroyed, I'll get the Serpent in rotation, and so I'll have that for the Graceful pitch. So I figure that should be fine. We also don't really need more Gracefuls at this point. So they're going to pre-map back Fusilier, then tribute that off for a Jinzo. And that's really awkward because we got a lot of powerful traps in hand. We bring out a Serpent here. Again, we want the Serpent rotation for our Graceful. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw Snatch, which is really good. We go for the Snatch here, take control of the Jinzo, attack in. We don't have to play around Mirror Force, so we're just going to leave the Serpent attack to, potentially bluff that we're threatening an attack with it. But they are going to just take it. So we're going to switch the Serpent defense in main 2. Pass back to them. They do gain 1,000 here, but they are still below the Stein range, which is very important here. We draw a Giant Red Sea Snake, which is pretty good. We're just going to get the aggressive pressure going. We attack in with the Sea Snake, and they're on Reaper. Damn, that's kind of rough. We do a Brain Con to out that. We could out that now, but I choose just to wait till next turn. If they've got a Monarch here, they've got a Monarch here. And if they do have a Monarch that they bring out over the Reaper, potentially Mobius would be the worst for us here. If they Mobius, pop both of our back row, next turn we can Brain Con, take control of either the Jinzo or the Mobius, attack into the other one, and pop it that way. So I feel fine about this. And they're just going to pass back to us. That's perfectly fine. We go for the Brain Con there. And we go for Graceful now because I figure we could potentially kill them there this turn. So we pitch a Dust Shoot and a TT. We tribute over the Serpent for the Sidra. And then we're going to attack in for lethal if it goes through. And it will indeed go through. Looks like that set was a TT, which was dead by the Jinzo. So very, very good showing for the deck in that game as well. We didn't really get to hand rip them, but it didn't actually matter there because the rest of our deck is just aggressive. So either you draw the hand rips early or you draw a pretty aggressive hand early, and either way, you're fine with that. This time we do indeed draw the hand rips, so that's pretty nice. They go for Duo though, and what will they rip here? They're going to rip, no, not our hand rip. Oh, that's rough. We pitch a Book as well. We maybe should have pitched the Snatch instead because Book pairs with Knock. So I'm happy, playing in that synergy a bit. Book's also reactive, whereas Snatch Shield is not. So maybe I should have done that instead, but I figure it's fine. Snatch is a very, very powerful card, so I'm hopefully okay having it here. We bring up Yomi Ship. That's fine by them. We go for a Knock on the set, and then we just attack in for 800. If they clear this, that's fine. It's just a Yomi Ship. We're going to set a TT pass back to them. They go for another Fusilier there, and they're going to attack into our Yomi Ship, and that will go through. So we take 6. That'll destroy the Fusilier. They pass back to us. We draw a Grizzly. So we're just keep drawing the monsters. That's the goal of this deck. They go for a TT of their own. That's fine. We're going to pass back to them. They're going to set 2. we draw pot, which is really good. So we're going to go for the pot here, draw 2. We draw Sidra plus Giant Red Sea Snake. We bring out the Sea Snake, just attack in for 18. Again, keeping the aggressive pressure going. They've got Mirror Force, but these are just 1-for-1 trades, and we're happy trading that way. Opponent's going to set another pass back to us. We draw Tribe. We could hold the Tribe, but we're just going to go for it because we want to drop them below the 5k range. And I feel like we've got really good follow-up if they do bring out like Sidra or something like that. We've got Snatch. We've got our own Sidra, so I feel pretty good about this. They bring out a set. We bring out another Grizzly. We attack in over that set. It's a Koichi. They draw. We attack in for another 16. Drop them down to 3k. Pass back to them. They're going to bring up Breaker. We could go for TT here. I do debate it. But I think we have game next turn if they just, pop our TT and then we like snatch the Breaker. So I don't choose to TT here. I let them just attack over the Tribe. And then they pop our back row, which is the TT. So we draw a Bit Soldier here. We go for the snatch on the Breaker. And I actually make a major misplay here. What I should do is I should right now go for the Cyber Dragon, tribute over the Breaker, and then attack in that way. But I figure, they didn't go for an MST right away. So I don't think that they have an MST, right? Because normally what you do is you just MST on the snatch activation. So I figure they don't have MST, so this should be fine. However, I get majorly punished for this because they do indeed have the MST there to pop the snatch. Then they get back the Breaker. We already declared an attack with Grizzly, so we can't switch to defense here. And it's just a bit awkward for us. So, not the worst thing in the world. We can get out like a Serpent here or another Grizzly if we want to. I think maybe the Serpent would have been better because what we could do is we could tribute over the Serpent for the Sidra. We get the Serpent in hand for Abyss Soldier later. So that might have been better, but yeah, I think it's fine. We go for Abyss Steer. And we're not going to use Prior. We're just going to attack in to the Breaker. They've got Book for our Breaker. And we're just going to set the Book and pass back to them. We could have potentially gone Book on their Breaker, attacked over with Grizzly. But I didn't want to do that. That opened me up to Sidra. And I feel like Book is better just reactively. So I'm fine with this. They go for Pot here. And they go for knock on our Abyss Soldier. Then they attack in to the Grizzly here. We just take that. We bring out a Serpent here because we can distribute over that for the Sidra next turn. We draw a Breaker of our own, which is pretty good. We go for the Breaker, and we switch the Serpent to defense. We just attack over their Breaker to get in 300. We pop their back row. It is just a meta, so we actually would have had game if we attributed over the Breaker there. But realistically, they would have just, fired the MST instead. But I guess maybe they wanted us to go for the Grizzly plus Breaker attack because that was exactly lethal. So that's actually a good hold on their part, actually, because they didn't have any other back row. And we could have definitely gone for lethal if they had not, allowed us to just go to battle phase with the Breaker and the Grizzly. So I think it was a misplay on my part. We did have lethal that turn, and that will actually end up costing us here. They go for Moth, flip up, add the pot, go for a Sidra. Banish the Light in the Dark, go for the BLS here, and we will indeed be losing this turn, although maybe not in the way you think. They attack over the Serpent, they attack over the Breaker, and this is kind of a weird ordering. They attack him on the Sidra. I could book it, but I'm like, I'm fine here. I'm living. Even if they've got like Limiter, I'm still alive, and then I can bring out Sidra next turn anyways. But they don't just have one Limiter. They've got 2. They've got 3 Limiter removals, so that thing buffs up to 16,800, and that will indeed kill us there. And they activate that in damage step, so we can't actually use the Book. So, rough stuff indeed. But, I think I did misplay that. I think we could have had lethal there because they'd already used up the TT, so we didn't have to worry about that. It would have been the right play just to tribute over the Breaker for the Sidra. But unfortunately, we didn't do that, and we didn't lose that game too. But, there's just more games going on here. We're getting more data points for our deck. So we're going to dive into game 3. We are indeed going first here, and we draw no hand rips. Okay, we draw Pot. Okay, that can get us into a hand rip. We draw 2. Still no hand rips. We got Graceful, so that can draw us into a hand rip. We really want to draw a hand rip in the... Oh my god. We got Pot, Graceful. We're playing 6 hand rips in our deck. We don't draw any of them. I mean, we're technically even playing 7 hand rips if you count Duo. Wow, that is something. I mean, I think the move here is just to pitch the Sidra in one book because we've got multiple other books in hand. And we got another Sidra in hand as well. And so we're just going to bring out the Giant Red Sea Snake, set the book, pass back to them. They will try and attack into our Giant Red Sea Snake. We're just going to flip it down. We've got the knock. We've got, Breaker. We can get pretty aggressive here. So we're going to bring out the Breaker, and we're going to try and pop that set. It is a ring. They're going to go for our Giant Red Sea Snake. I really want to clear the Sidra this turn, so I book down the Sea Snake, flip up the Sea Snake, banish their set with the knock here. We don't have any Koichi in the deck, but they do. And now we can attack over their set with the Giant Red Sea Snake and attack indirectly for 16. It's not ideal, but it is something. If they've got a Stein OTK next turn, then, they OTK us. But, it's still a pretty decent position to be in. They go for heavy on our call, which is kind of rough. But it looks like they don't have the OTK here. They just got another Sidra. That's perfectly fine. They'll attack over the breaker here, pass back to us. We draw Yomi ship here, and we are just going to get aggressive because I want to drop them down below the 5,000 range. We attack into the Sidra. That will destroy it. And then we attack in with a Giant Red Sea Snake, dropping them down to 4,600. We set an MST as well. They set one. We're just going to MST in the end phase. And we draw a Dushu, which is dead here, unfortunately. We drew it a little bit too late, and that is one of the flaws of this deck. If you draw into the hand rips at the wrong time, then it could potentially come back to bite you. Opponent's going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw Abyss Soldier here. That's pretty good. We don't really have to go for it now. They haven't used up TT. I don't want to play into it. So we're just going to attack in for 18. That will indeed go through. We'll pass back to them. They will set 1, pass back to us. We draw Giant Red Sea Snake here. So now I think it is fine going for the Abyss Soldier, pitching for Prio. Maybe I should have not used Prio. Maybe I should have just summoned out the Abyss Soldier because they've already used a ring. Deck probably isn't playing bottomless, although it might be after siding because they know we're on a bunch of beaters here. And if they have TT, then we get punished for this because then all we're left is with a Sidra Dragon. But, you know, then they'd have to bring in a monster, and then we could special summon out the Sidra. So I feel pretty fine about this. But either way, that will be the end of the game. Looks like they just had a meta and a knock set. But still, very, very good stuff. Very good showing for this deck. I mean, I think this deck is really, really cool. Very, very aggressive. And this wasn't the last game that I got with the deck. So let's dive into the last game I have with it now. Okay, for our last game with the deck, we had a game against Dump Truck, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're going to dive into the games here, and let's see what we draw. This is a pretty good opening, but we don't have a water. Okay, now we got a water, so this is actually really good. We set the Serp, we set the Owie, we set the TT, pass back to them, and we can potentially hand rip them here, which is pretty nice. I'm going to save the Owie. I don't want to necessarily fire in the standby because ideally we can get them to sort of 2 for 2, right? Won't always happen. Sometimes, you know, they'll bring out Sidra and potentially bring out another monster. We got to TT that. But I figure if they just bring out Sidra, that's fine. If they go for knock, that's also fine because what we can do here is now we can chain the Owie to it. We've used up one of their knocks. Now we get another peek at their hand, and this is the power of Owie and why I love it so much. But we get to look at their hand. Ah, that's so bad. Oh, no, that's so bad. They've got double Moth and a Graceful. Ugh. I feel like I gotta send the Graceful. I can get rid of one of the Moths by summoning Serpent and TTing. That's just so awkward, though, but, like, I really don't want them to loop that Charity. Yeah, it's just so bad. Maybe we draw into a knock of our own later as well, but, yeah, it's just so rough. We take the Graceful. But, yeah, that's so bad. They're going to set 1. It has to be the Moth. We draw into a Tribe, which is pretty good with the Serpent there. And we're just going to bring out the Serp, go for the TT there, pop both, set the Book, pass back to them. If they go for an OTK here, we got Book to stop it. They're just going to go for a set Moth. And yeah, that's just rough. I mean, we can't stop it. We might as well just attack over it. We bring out a Cyber Dragon and a Grizzly. We attack into the set with the Grizzly. It is indeed the Moth. They add back the Graceful, but we can get them down a little bit here. We attack in for 2,100 with the Sidra. And then they're going to pass back to us. Or we're going to pass back to them, that is. They go for Graceful here, draw in 3. They're going to pitch a Chaos Orc and a Brain Con. They got Snatch for our Sidra. We could potentially let that go through, but we know about Limiter, and Limiter will just, you know, potentially deal with our Sidra for us. Because what they do is they Limiter on the Sidra, get in a ton of damage, and then the Sidra will pop itself in the end phase. So I don't necessarily want them to let them take it at all. I just set it, pass back to them. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. I flip up the Sidra here. They go for the TT. That's perfectly fine. We got another summon, so we're just going to bring out this Tribe, attack in for 16. I really wanted just to bring out the Yomi ship and attack in, but unfortunately, that would not put them out of Stein range. So I felt like I had to go for the Tribe here to get them out of Stein range. We do have Snatch to take one of their cards and attack in for more damage as well later. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it is awkward because unfortunately, you know, Tribe is a very, very powerful card, especially with Serpent in hand. Unfortunately, we might not get full use out of it if they've got a way to clear it. They're going to go for a Sook, flip down the Tribe, attack over that, and, you know, clear the Tribe that way. That will indeed work. They're going to set 1, pass back to us, and we draw a Grizzly. That's pretty good. We're just going to bring out the Grizzly, try attacking in for 14. We don't really have the best Grizzly targets left in deck, but it's still a floater, and that's not bad. 1,400 also is not bad to just keep hitting in with. And our opponent's going to set 1, set another, pass back to us. We draw a Breaker, which is pretty good. We go for the Breaker because we know TT's gone. And they're going to book down the Breaker. That's perfectly fine by us. We attack into the set with the Grizzly there. And it's a Dekoichi, so they draw another, pass back to us. They are going to bring out a Sidra now. But again, that's fine. We got a Snatch Seal. They go for Sork as well, and they will banish the Grizzly, which is kind of unfortunate. They go for our Set Breaker, pass back to us. We draw a Gaga Gigo here, which is pretty good. We go for Snatch on the Sork. They've got MST for that, but that's perfectly fine. We set the Yomi ship here, pass back to them. Maybe we should have summoned the Yomi ship, crashed into the Sork just to clear it, because Sork is very annoying for us. We've got Serp to stall for a bit if all they've got is Sork. So they're going to attack into the Yomi ship with the Sidra, then attack indirectly with Sork. Now they'll set one pass back to us. We draw a knock, not really that useful right now. We would really like to see that earlier, but we set the Serp, set the knock, pass back to them. They're going to attack over the Serp with the Sork, and they're just going to pass back to us. We draw a Giant Red Sea Snake, not really the best right now. And again, this is what I was talking about earlier, where like the deck does have some problem dealing with like big dudes if your opponent does manage to stick one. So against a lot of Chaos decks, it might be a bit worse, and maybe that's a reason to like potentially play things like Kaiku or other things that stop Chaos monsters from coming down, because that is kind of awkward for us. They bring out a Stein to hit over the Serp. They attack in for 23. Perfectly fine. And now they're going to set one pass back to us. We get to add back that Serp, and we got to think about whether we want to add back the Serp, because we do know that Dust Shoot is an option here. I ultimately decided to do it because I do have other monsters here anyways, so if they do go for Dust Shoot, not the worst thing in the world. They'll take the Serp because Gigo and Sea Snake are basically the same thing anyways. So I don't hate just adding back Serp. If they got Dust Shoot, use that up at least, and gets it out of the picture. But I think honestly, I shouldn't have done this, because I will probably just be bringing out Gigo attacking in over the Cyberstein this turn. And it doesn't really make sense to go for Serpent, especially because I probably am duoing as well. Although there are worlds in which I don't duo if they do have a way to clear the Gigo. So, that is something to think about. But I could always just set the duo. So, yeah, I think that adding back the Serp is not the right play, because now they go for Dust Shoot here, and they will send back that Serp. So, quite unfortunate here. But we're going to attack in over the sign with the Gigo there, get in for 1150, go for duo, rip the last two cards of their hand, leaving them with just the Sork. So I feel pretty decent about this situation. There are things that kill us here, of course, but it looks like they are just going to attack over the Gigo with their Sork, set one, pass back to us. And we draw a Braincon, so Braincon will indeed kill if this goes through. We go for the Braincon here, take control of their Sork, and now we get a bit greedy. I figure, if they've got like Saku or something set, I want to have two attackers here, but if they've got Mirror Force, this does blow us out, and they do indeed have the Mirror Force. So I shouldn't have done that. I think I should have just, Brainconned the Sork and been fine with it. Kept the Sea Snake in hand for later. They do have a pot here, so I think they do kill us this turn. They got pre-mat, yep, so that will kill us anyways. We could have set the Sea Snake, though, to wall up a little bit more. But realistically, I think we were probably dead here either way. Yeah, but it could have been better just to play around the Mirror. But I don't know, there were very few things that killed us there. I think Mirror was like the only one, besides like if they had like Book or something, but they didn't use Book, so that means that they must not have had it. So that will just be the end of the game there. I think we could have definitely played that differently, potentially won that one in the end, but it did not quite work out for us there. But we are going to be going first in this game. Hopefully we draw into hand rips, and we still do not draw into hand rips. We're playing 6 hand rips, come on! Oh, that's kind of rough, but the deck is still fine without the hand rips too. It's just the hand rips add a bit of a cherry on top for it. They bring out a Sidra, they attack into the Grizzly. We'll just take the 7, bring out another Grizzly. Snatch plus Grizzly does get them out of Stein range, so I'm fine with that. They're just going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw into duo, which is pretty good. They go for a Dust Shoot here, send back the Abyss Soldier. That's quite unfortunate. We would have liked to potentially, get a Serpent later and go for Abyss Soldier Lupin, but we can't do that. We're just going to try and get them out of Stein range here. This actually didn't quite do it. I think I miscalculated. Okay, this is going to be 3,900 if it goes through, dropping them down to 4,100. They gain 1,000, so they go up to 5,000. 5,100 that is. So they will be able to pay for Stein here, so I don't think I should have gone for the Snatch, but I'm just trying to get aggressive. Unfortunately, they've got a Reaper there, which will prevent us from getting aggressive because, yeah, we'll just wall up and, they're gaining 1,000 every turn. So, yeah, it's really backfiring for us. So, yeah, I think we definitely misplayed that a bit. They're going to pitch the Stein, though, so that's one Stein gone. I'm happy about that. Until I see that they bring out a Sork here, they're going to banish our Grizzly. That's kind of rough. But they left the Sork in defense, so now we can bring out this Dragon attack over it. So, it's debatable whether they should have brought in defense or attack. If they bring an attack, then we crash the Sidra into the Sork. But now that's gone for them, so, that is something. So, I don't know. I think either way here, we're fine, because we're attacking the Sidra in either way. I don't want them to keep gaining 1,000, so, I will happily cut off that Sidra if I have to. But, yeah, I think this is fine. I keep the TT in hand. TT is one of the few ways to out Reaper here. So, maybe I should have said it, but I don't want to just die to a big, heavy storm. So they're going to go for the Cyberstein. They can only pay for it once, so I'm happy about that. They go for a Cyber Twin Dragon here. Then they're going to attack in over our stuff, or at least attempt to. We go for the Mirror Force here. I could have also let that go through if I wanted to, but I felt it was fine just using it because we do want to clear this time because next turn they will potentially have 6,000 if they don't attack over the side rep. So we're just going to set the TT, set the dust shoot. If they do go for heavy here, we're fine losing the dust shoot because they're nowhere near getting to dust shoot range in terms of hand size. They go up to 6,000 so they can use Stein again if they want to. They bring out a breaker here. We're just going to use TT to pop the entire field, cut off their life point gain. They set one pass back to us. We draw a knock, which is not useful here. We're going to set an MST in case they draw like pre-mat or something. They're going to set another pass back to us. We draw a book. So we're just going to set that, pass back to them. They are going to pass back to us. We draw a tribe. We could potentially keep that in hand, but we know that they've got other Steins in deck, or we figure they do because they've already shown us 2. And so they could easily be on more. So we're going to attack in, drop them below Stein range, have a monster on field. If they go for like side right here, we got book. So I feel fine about that. They're going to banish the light in the dark though. Go for a Chaos Orc here. Use Prio to banish the tribe. We could have also set down the tribe, flipped it up next turn, popped the Sorc that way. Because once you use the effect, you can't actually attack for the rest of the turn. So we could have definitely done that. But there are some things that does lose to. And I'm fine just like, using book potentially on Sorc to knock it. So that is indeed what I end up doing here. I book down the Sorc, I knock it, and then I pass back to them. So they are going to go for a Reaper here, attack in for 300. Unfortunately, they will rip out our last knock, so now they don't have to fear setting face down. We draw a Giant Red Sea Snake. We're just going to bring that out of attack. They can get it out of our hand either way, so I feel fine just hitting in, dealing some more damage here. And then on their turn, they're going to switch the Reaper to defense. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Pre-Mat here. Pre-Mat is okay, but we don't really have many targets for it, so I feel no need to go into that. So what we're going to do here is we are just going to attack into the set. It is indeed a Moth, so they'll be able to add back nothing because they don't have any spells engraved. So works out well for us. They've got another light engrave though, so that's not the best for us there. We set the pre-map, pass back to them, and we draw Owie, so that's pretty good. Again, we can get that sort of 2-for-2 removal if they do something to try and stop our Sea Snake here. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a ring. We set that because that's our Reaper out. And now they're going to set one, or no, they're going to summon one and flip down our Sea Snake. They're going to try attacking in. And we're going to think about this. We're just going to let it go through. We could have potentially owied that, gotten a peek at their hand. But now their hand's going to be filled up to dust shoot range. So I kind of wanted to let them bounce back the Sook and then draw a 4th card next turn. So I figured that should be fine. We draw a Gagagigo as well. We got tons of live monster draws in the deck at this point. And we're going to ring that Reaper. We could potentially go for game here, going for pre-mat. Because, I mean, I don't know. They haven't used up any, really powerful traps. I don't want to play into those with the pre-mat, so I'm just going to attack in, see what happens. And it looks like that does go through, so maybe we could have won this turn. But we got Dust Shoot anyways. We got Owie as well, so realistically, there's no way they're, winning, even if we don't, commit to going for a lethal line that last turn. I think this is fine. We see that they've got a pot. That's really rough. They've also got the Sook in hand, so we got to shuffle that back. So they've got pot, knock, and limiter. So kind of a scary hand. The pot could potentially go hard here. And they are indeed going to do it. Draw 2. We could go for Owie now, but I don't necessarily want to because, again, I want the 2-for-2 trade. After they go for Graceful, though, now I'm kind of feeling it. Yeah, so I will just go for Owie here, tribute the Gagagigo, and take a peek at their hand just to prevent them from trying to go for a big OTK line. This also does play around Sidra, which they did draw here. So I feel like we want to get rid of the Decoychi because that walls up against us. So we want to go for a lethal push next turn if we draw a monster, or we just go for pre-mat. So I'd rather just get rid of the Deco. So we do indeed get rid of that Decoychi, leaving them with limiter, knock, and Sidra. We draw another Owie here. We're going to go for the pre-mat. We could have also saved the pre-mat for one turn, just so that way, if they use a battle trap on whatever monster we bring back, we can then Owie again. But, it looks like they don't have any way to stop that, so that will just be the end of the game there. So very, very intense game 2. And we're going to dive into game 3. Hopefully this deck can pull off the winning plays here. Now, we do side out of 3 Dust Shoot here. We side into Mobius and double Braincon because I want more outs to Reaper. We know they're playing Reaper. This deck seems to have a problem against Reaper, so I just want to have ways to deal with it. So I think that that's a fine choice. They go for a Fusilier plus meta play into a Dragoon there. That's pretty rough. We don't have anything in hand right now that deals with this, but we can sort of wall up until we do because we do have outs in our deck. Unfortunately, they've got a Dust Shoot here, so they're able to shuffle back that Breaker, which is kind of rough. And yeah, it's going to be awkward for us. We're just going to special summon out the Sidra, set a ring, pass back to them. And this is just to wall up a bit. It also gets a monster engraved for call or premat, so I'm feeling okay about that. They attack over our Sidra. And now they're going to set one more pass back to us. We draw out, which is pretty good until they do Dust Shoot. So they send back our Abyss Soldier. Now we've got no waters to rip apart their hand more. And that's going to be awkward for us. We could potentially bring back the Sidra with the Premat, but I don't necessarily want to do that. I commit the call just in case I need to bring it back as a blocker. But they're just going to attack in for 24 here. Pass back to us. We draw Duo. I mean, if we could duo their hand a bit, I guess I'll do that. Ripping 2 cards out. If they bring in another monster here, though, that's kind of awkward for us. We hit a Braincon, though, so that's pretty good. Glad to see that gone. They're going to attack in for 24 yet again. And, you know, we'll just take it. We could have brought back the Sidra as a chump blocker, but I feel fine. We draw Braincon. Oh, that's awkward. We set the Braincon, pass back to them. They go for MST on our Braincon. Happy to see that gone. They go for 2400 here, and we bring back the Sidra with the call there. So they attack over for 3. I'm perfectly fine with that. And now they are going to just pass back to us. We lose if we don't pre-map back the Sidra. Like, guaranteed lose. We probably lose if we pre-map back the Sidra anyways. So I'm just going to do that, bring back the Sidra. And then I actually make a bit of a misplay here. I set the Owie instead of the Braincon. I should just set the Braincon because Braincon will be dead after they attack for the Sidra anyways. But I figure it doesn't matter too much. They are going to go for Snatch on the Sidra anyways, so it doesn't really matter. We just lose the game from this position. So, yeah, that Dragoon kind of soloed. Yeah, it's kind of awkward, but the deck does have ways to deal with Dragoon. If we drew into a Mother Grizzly at all, we could crash the Grizzly into the Dragoon, bring out a Yomi ship, attack into the Dragoon that way. So that's a way to deal with Dragoon. We are playing Mirror. We're playing the TT. We also do have Mobiuses in the deck after siding. So that means that we could have used like the call or the pre-mat to bring back Sidra, tribute over for a Mobius, pop their back row, then attack into the Dragoon and crash. So we did have outs to the Dragoon deck. We just didn't draw them. I mean, our opponent ripped us twice with the Dust Shoots as well. So we didn't have chump blockers here too. So it was just an awkward time all around. Still, I think this deck is really, really good. I'm not sure if it's like top of tier 1 or anything, but having access to 6 hand rips early is very strong. We did not draw them in these games, unfortunately, which is kind of the reason why we're playing the deck, so that's kind of frustrating. But I think the fact that the deck still managed to function, even though we didn't draw things like Owie or Dust Shoot, is still a very good showing for the deck. And I think that, if you touch up the side deck a little bit more, it could potentially be better. Like maybe the Owies shouldn't have been in after siding. I figured the Owies were still good because, again, they turn a lot of things into 2-for-2 trades, and we get hand knowledge as well to disrupt combos. But, potentially there's an argument for not bringing them in game 2 or 3 when you're going second. But I think this was a really, really cool showing for the deck. I like this deck a lot. I think that it has a lot of potential, and I encourage you to play around with it if you are interested in building a water strategy in this format, because I really do like how this feels. But that's going to do it for the video. I hope that you enjoyed, as always. If you enjoy this sort of content, then definitely do subscribe to the channel. I have a lot of gameplay videos like this. Also, you'll get notified whenever I stream locals and things like that. So definitely subscribe. I'd really like to reach 1,400 by the end of the month, and I think we are on track to reach that goal. Also, if you want to support me directly, I do have a Patreon link to the description as well. And if you join the Patreon, you'll be shouted out in these videos. So big shout outs to Tyler Compton, GMYFS, Rincewind, Porkchop Coon, Bryn Donker, and Dumpstrike. It really means a lot that you all support me this way and motivates me to make more videos like this. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, let me know what you think of the deck down in the comments below. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.